Right now, before the noise fully kicks in, before the hot takes flood your feed, and before emotions start running the show, you need to take a breath and really listen to what's happening, because moments like this don't test charts, they test understanding. Reports are circulating that WisdomTree has pulled back from its XRP ETF filing, and immediately the word insane is being thrown around. Panic, celebration, confusion, all at once. But this is exactly where most people get it wrong. Before we go any further, let me be very clear. This video is for educational and informational purposes only. Nothing here is financial advice. Crypto markets are volatile, headlines change fast, and decisions should never be made on emotion alone. What we're doing here is understanding context, not reacting to noise. If you value calm breakdowns instead of panic-driven content, take 1 second and tap the like button. It helps this kind of analysis reach people who actually want clarity. And if you're new here, subscribe, because this channel focuses on understanding markets, not chasing clicks. Now let's talk about why this moment feels so explosive and why it might not mean what most people think it means. When a headline drops saying an ETF-related move has changed, the immediate assumption is that something has failed, that adoption has stalled, that the door has closed. But financial infrastructure doesn't work like social media narratives. Decisions are layered, filings are adjusted, strategies shift, and very often, what looks like a retreat is actually a recalibration. WisdomTree, like any large financial firm, operates under regulatory frameworks that change constantly. ETF filings are not single-shot bets. They are iterative processes. Firms pull back, refile, restructure, or wait, not because the asset is invalid, but because timing, compliance, and legal clarity matter more than speed. This is where emotional interpretation becomes dangerous. Retail participants often read headlines as final verdicts. Institutions read them as steps in a longer process. That difference in perspective explains why panic tends to cluster at the bottom and excitement tends to peak at the top. XRP exists in one of the most regulation-sensitive corners of the crypto market. That doesn't make it weak, it makes it exposed. And exposure means visibility. Visibility means scrutiny. Scrutiny means slower progress, but also stronger foundations if it survives. It's important to understand that ETFs are not endorsements of price movement. They are financial vehicles designed to provide exposure within regulatory boundaries. An ETF doesn't validate an asset's future value. It validates that a structure exists to package that exposure for certain investors. So when a filing changes or pauses, it doesn't erase the underlying asset, the technology, or the problem it was built to address. It simply means one pathway is being reassessed. The real question isn't why did this happen? The real question is, what does this tell us about the system we're watching? Still matters. Timing still matters. And narratives move much faster than institutions do. Most people watching this are conditioned to believe markets react instantly to information. In reality, markets react unevenly. Some participants move fast, others don't move at all. And the biggest players often wait for volatility to settle before making adjustments. That's why moments like this feel chaotic. Information spreads instantly, but understanding doesn't. Let's also talk about language. Words like pulled out, scrapped, or abandoned are emotionally loaded. They imply finality, but in regulatory reality, very few things are final. Filings are withdrawn all the time for procedural reasons, legal optimization, or strategic alignment. The crypto space amplifies everything. A small procedural change becomes a massive emotional event. That amplification benefits content cycles, not investors. This is why it's so important to slow down instead of speed up when headlines break. Another thing people forget is that ETF interest doesn't disappear just because one firm adjusts its approach. Financial products are competitive. Firms watch each other closely. One pause doesn't mean a category is dead. It means the category is evolving. XRP's challenge has never been technology. Its challenge has been fitting into a system that wasn't designed for digital native assets. Every regulatory interaction pushes that system to adapt. That adaptation takes time. And time is the one thing markets are least patient with. What you're seeing right now is not failure, it's friction. And friction is unavoidable when new systems meet old rules. If you've been in markets long enough, you've seen this pattern before. Early rejection, extended silence, gradual normalization, and then suddenly acceptance feels obvious in hindsight. But hindsight is only clear after patience does its work. This is also where discipline separates observers from reactors. Reactors see a headline and feel urgency. Observers see a headline and ask what changed structurally. Did the underlying use case disappear? No. Did global payment inefficiencies vanish overnight? No. Did regulatory conversations stop? No. So what actually changed? A filing status, a timeline, a strategy. That's it. And yet emotions spike because most people aren't reacting to facts. They're reacting to uncertainty. Uncertainty is uncomfortable. Markets exploit that discomfort. Large participants understand this. They expect emotional waves. They plan around them. They don't fear them. This doesn't mean price can't move. Of course it can. Volatility is real, but volatility alone doesn't define long-term relevance. If you're feeling uneasy watching this unfold, that feeling is normal. It doesn't mean you're wrong. It means you're human. The key is not letting that feeling dictate decisions. If you're still with me here, drop a like. It signals that you value understanding over panic, and subscribe if you want continued breakdowns like this as the situation develops. Because this story is not over, not even close. What happens next? Odd won't be decided by one headline or one firm. It will be shaped by how regulation evolves, how institutions adapt, and how infrastructure matures. And that process doesn't move on Twitter time. It moves on institutional time. Right now, the market is reacting, but reaction is not resolution. Resolution takes patience, and patience is exactly what moments like this are designed to test. And that patience becomes even more critical once you understand how institutions actually think about products like ETFs. From the outside, it looks like a simple yes or no decision. Either an ETF exists or it doesn't. Either it launches or it fails. But internally, these decisions are rarely binary. They are layered, conditional, and constantly reevaluated as the regulatory environment shifts. For a firm like WisdomTree, reputation matters as much as opportunity. They don't move just to be first. They move to be right within the rules they're required to follow. If conditions change, even slightly, stepping back isn't a sign of weakness. It's risk management, and risk management is what keeps institutions alive over decades, not headlines over days. This is where the emotional gap between retail and institutional behavior becomes obvious. Retail participants often interpret caution as lack of confidence. Institutions interpret caution as discipline. Those two interpretations create very different reactions to the same event. Another thing that rarely gets discussed is how much signaling happens behind the scenes. ETF filings are not just paperwork, they're communication. They send signals to regulators, to partners, to competitors. Pulling back can be part of a broader conversation that the public never sees. Sometimes it's about timing, sometimes it's about structure, sometimes it's about waiting for clarity that's already in motion. And that brings us back to XRP itself. XRP doesn't exist in a vacuum. It exists at the intersection of crypto innovation and traditional finance. That intersection is inherently slow, cautious, and heavily scrutinized. Progress there doesn't look like viral adoption. It looks like meetings, frameworks, pilot programs, and legal interpretations. This is why many people misread what progress actually looks like in this space. They expect fireworks. Institutions expect stability. When people say, if XRP was really valuable, this wouldn't be happening, they're assuming markets reward value immediately. History shows the opposite. Markets often delay recognition until uncertainty is reduced to a level institutions can tolerate. And uncertainty isn't just about technology, it's about rules. It's about enforcement. It's about consistency. In the United States especially, regulatory consistency is a prerequisite for large-scale financial products. Firms don't want to build something today that becomes non-compliant tomorrow, so they wait, they adjust, they test boundaries carefully. That's not exciting, but it's how capital survives. It's also why moments like this feel so emotionally charged. People project meaning onto them.